Hello there, you're watching Business Connections Live. I'm Steve Harlan. Great to have you with us. It is Business Connections Live number 24. It's been number 24 all the way through the day. It's great to have you with us, and another cracking program lined up for you. If you're in a small to medium scale enterprise, in fact, if you're just in business, in fact, if you're just in life, we've got some great advice for you this evening, and we've got a terrific guest with us as well. My guest this evening is Lizanne Jakobs from Ology Coaching. She's going to be talking about funding and grants that are available to you, small and medium scale enterprises and businesses. Let me tell you something straight away from the very top. The very first thing after the last time that Lizanne was on, she was talking about a whole range of different grants that were available for small to medium scale enterprises. And you know what it's like? You sometimes step back for a moment, you go, I bet that's going to be just too complicated, too difficult for us to actually be able to get. Well, to my utter amazement, we went for the Sustainable Roots Grant application. And lo and behold, we actually got that. Lizanne, it's great to have you with us this evening. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Thank you for having me back.
Well, you were so good the last time, and the information that you gave the last time was so, I think it was just enlightening, to be honest with you. It was a fantastic sort of insight into what was available for businesses. For those people that don't know what you do, let's just talk a little bit about you for a moment. What do you do and what are you all about? Who's Ology for a start?
Okay, so Ology is a group of around 50 business coaches worldwide, and about half of those work in the UK. And what I do is I help businesses grow. I help them overcome the barriers to growth. So for smaller businesses, that usually involves things like looking at what are your goals, let's set a strategy for the business as a whole, let's look at your sales and marketing strategy if that's where your biggest issues are. It might be cash flow. So we look at those specific areas where they want and need help. For larger organisations, it tends to be more on the people side. They have all their strategies, they have their procedures, they have their reporting in place, but it tends to be more about leadership and management than communication, delegation, recruitment, staff retention, those types of things.
I remember you telling us the last time you were in here that one of the things that you do find is you always recommend to have an up-to-date business plan. And what a lot of businesses do, they will write their business plan and then put it safely, maybe in a drawer or maybe in the safe, to keep it nice and safe, and they just never update it. Is that still true, do you think?
That is still the case, absolutely. Most businesses don't have a business plan at all. If they have less than 10 million turnover, about 2/3 of them won't have a business plan at all. And it's really important. The Department of Business Innovation and Skills has recently done a survey. They've actually found that 67% of owners of small to medium-sized businesses want to grow over the next 2 to 3 years. They know in practice only about 20% of them will. So that's
a frightening statistic, isn't it? When you hear that 80% aren't, you know, and that when you hear a statistic like that, you think to yourself, crikey, that means that people really don't have a grasp. They're just going from day to day, don't they?
Some businesses do, and some are also doing really well. We are seeing some shoots of recovery. Obviously, the economy is improving, but if you want to make that sustainable, if you want to make sure that you're growing year on year, then it's really important to be strategic about it and, you know, set your business plan, but also act upon it. Do all the things that you planned you were going to do.
We had Jim McLaughlin on the programme last week from Axial, and he's a consultant as well that goes and he talks about how people should be maybe reconsidering how their business is operating, about the marketing of the business and how to generate more new leads. Is it a difficult job being a consultant where you're going into a business and you're actually having to give this business advice to people who think they already know it all?
Well, what I do, I vary depending on what the client wants and needs. So in some businesses they say, look, we have no idea how to get more customers, we want more profit, we want more leads, can you please tell us what else we could be doing? And I do give them my advice. I've been going around a whole host of businesses for the last 15 years and sharing best practice. Sometimes I have companies who go, you know, we're all fine, sales and marketing's completely covered, we just want you to work on different aspects of the business. That's fine. If they're happy with the results that they are getting, then don't change it. But I always ask, you know, is your turnover where you want it to be?
And you've got to ask that question. I suppose that the thing is that what makes you the expert? What puts you head and shoulders above everybody else? Why should I believe what you say?
Okay. Well, what I say is based on a number of things. It's not just my personal opinion. I have worked in a variety of roles for different businesses, larger businesses, smaller businesses, where I'd go out and see companies and share best practice. So for example, I worked for a very large forklift truck manufacturer where I would manage their dealerships across Europe and see how they were working, making sure that the parts department was working with the service department. They actually looked at, what is the range of trucks that we have out there, making sure the sales department is selling these trucks with a service contract. So that's one aspect. I've worked for a large company that provided consultancy software and outsourcing to mostly patent and trademark departments or law firms. So I would go around businesses like Volvo and Heineken and very large pharmaceuticals and see what they liked about their business, what was working well and what wasn't working so well, where they could save time, where they could save money. And I still work with a whole range of businesses now, all different sectors. I work with nursing homes, I have people who do music classes, accountancy firms, law firms. It really varies. And therefore it's sharing all that best practice. And sometimes if I see a clear synergy, I will connect people as well. So for example, I worked with a company that provided outdoor fitness equipment, and they ran a more traditional way of doing their sales marketing, and I connected them with a business that had street furniture, things like bike racks, and were very good at digital marketing. Mm-hmm. And they actually had the same type of customers. They were selling into the public sector. So by hooking them up, they could also share their ideas.
It must be very interesting actually being able to sit outside of a business and look in. The other area, of course, is the grants, which we mentioned at the very beginning of the programme. And as I said, we've applied for one of the grants that you suggested, and to my utter amazement and surprise, a few simple forms, we were given the grant. So there is money that's available out there, and I suppose that kind of takes us on to the topic that we're going to discuss tonight. We've just had some of the worst weather in 250 years, and there must be small businesses, particularly around the area we are here, but up and down the country, that have suffered terribly from the storms. What kind of support, I suppose is what we're going to talk about, but what kind of support is going to be out there, top line, for a small business that's finding it really tough at the moment because of the floods, because of the environment? What should they be considering?
I would say there's a whole host of ways in which they can get financial support. So obviously the first port of call is your insurance company if you do have insurance. But failing that, there is, for example, the business support scheme. So the government has set aside £10 million, which they are distributing via local councils. And businesses that have had any kind of damage, so either loss of trade or damaged stocks, for example, or clean-up costs, they can recover this money through going to their councils. And I would say first check your council's local website. I'm based in Staines-upon-Thames, and I know that our council, Spelthorne Council, are absolutely inundated with calls. So do make sure you get through to the right department.
We do know there's a lot of people tonight are actually going to be watching from the Spelthorne area, Staines-upon-Thames, or as it was, Thames upon Staines, as it was a few weeks back. So I mean, it really was pretty tricky over there. And of course, we're just down the road from where the legendary Chertsey sausage was. But more about that as the program goes on. So if you were affected by the floods over the past couple of weeks, now you may have heard David Cameron actually mentioning that there were, well, he did say unlimited funds. I can't actually believe that. There is never anywhere in government is there a bottomless bucket of money. But he did say that there was going to be funds and they were going to be available there. But as Lizanne has just said, she said that you've got to approach your local council. I think the question has got to be, are you aware of that? Because it hasn't been the biggest, loudest, most heavy publicity campaign in the history of radio and television, has it? It's nearly been a bit of a secret what is available out there for small businesses.
I think, to be fair to the government and to councils, I think it's such an exceptional situation that it's taken them a while to get through to everyone. And they've actually been really helpful as well in providing me with some of the information that we're sharing tonight on this programme. So I would like to thank the council as well in their help.
Is that our local councils?
That's our local council, yes.
There was some stories that came back from other councils who, a councillor saying, quote unquote, that you shouldn't, What do you expect if you build a house and live on a floodplain? I don't think that's particularly helpful. Luckily, we're in a lucky position where we are at the moment, and we've got good councils that are helping us out down here. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at the business support schemes that are available. The repair renewal grants, did you know that they were available out there? Of course you didn't. Lizanne's going to tell you a little bit more about that. The support lines that the government is actually operating at the moment. The rate relief, didn't even know that was about. Business rate relief, what Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs can do to help you. I just don't believe I said that sentence. Support from the banks, and also, strangely, support from some of the supermarkets as well. This has really brought communities together. It's brought businesses, communities, it's brought them all together. And I mean, I suppose we've muddled through it to a certain extent, but we're coming out the other side. It looks like there's if you're feeling at the moment that you've been left alone, Suzanne, I'm glad Suzanne could make it, but Lizanne is going to be explaining some of the courses that you need to take when it comes to maybe getting some of that funding that is available for your small to medium scale business. Before we talk to Lizanne, though, let's remind you about what we talked about last week. Every business stands, I suppose, survives on the business that it generates. We had Jim McLaughlin in. He told us a little bit about how you should go about actually creating new customers, getting lists, going out there and building your business. Let's just remind ourselves what we did on last week's edition of Business Connections Live. You're watching Business Connections Live. Jim McLaughlin, the Managing Director of Axial, as in coaxial, talking about generating leads and finding brand new business. He's with us this evening.
There are 100 different things that people have to think about, and I think it's also that people tend to do what they're most comfortable with. Sales and marketing is really all about communications, and not everyone is a natural communicator. I think that before you think about getting onto the telephone or sending out an email or sending out any form of communication, it's absolutely vital to sit down and understand, firstly, who are the people that I need to speak to? Where are those people? What kind of people are they? So the first thing that any organisation should be doing is looking at understanding and segmenting its marketplace. What's very important for every organisation to understand is the various ways that they can interact and engage with potential clients and attract those people to them. Well, I think LinkedIn is an absolutely key area. So what we find increasingly is where we used to go out and purchase lists regularly for people, now much more frequently we'll use our researchers, we'll sit down with a client and we'll go through that process of identifying a profile of people, and we'll then go out and we'll search the web, and particularly looking at social networking sites like LinkedIn, and in a business-to-business environment, LinkedIn is the premium site. That's where most of the people that our customers will want to speak to are going to be found. So rather than actually buying a list, we would research the names of people that are likely to be interested in the product. So the next step is, having defined all of those things, you need to be sure that your proposition and your messaging around that proposition are articulated in a way that's appropriate to that target market, because most companies are likely to have more than one target market, and there's no point in just having a single message that you want to fit all. If you've got a campaign, for example, that's around a new service or a new product, you want to make sure that the messaging that you're taking out there is appropriate to the person you're speaking to. So for example, if you're selling a technology proposition into another company, the people that are likely to be involved in that purchase will be IT people and finance people. Well, the message that you want to give to the IT people will be entirely different to the message you want to give to the finance people. And what I would say is that one of the benefits that a company like ours can bring to companies is that our business is about articulating messages. It's about understanding the benefits that can be delivered, and I think that it can frequently be of value to a company to have an external person who doesn't have an investment in a particular product or service from a particular angle. Our role is to stand in the shoes of the potential customer and try and articulate the message and the proposition in language that will be meaningful to that potential customer and will resonate with them. And that's frequently easier to do for someone who is not intimately involved with a product. I think that it's very important for every business that wants to get the most out of its investment in business development and lead generation to make lead generation part of an annual marketing plan. Whether you do that in-house or whether you engage a company like Axial, make sure that there is a plan in place and you're going to follow that plan rather than just doing something ad hoc and just to hit a target at the end of the quarter. That's not the best way to get the most out of your investment. The second point I would make is to remember that lead generation is about establishing a conversation. It's all about business conversations, and to do that effectively, it's important to understand who you're talking to and speak to those people in language that resonates with them. Make sure that your messaging is about the benefits to them. It's not about your product and service, it's about the benefits that it can deliver to their business. And thirdly, and perhaps most importantly, and this comes back to a point that Steve raised about speaking to thousands of people. It's not about speaking to thousands of people. As in most things in business, it's all about focus. So understanding what you want to do and focusing down so that the smallest number of conversations that you can have lead to the maximum output. If you'd like to discuss any of this with me, I'd be more than happy. You can reach us in a number of ways through our website, which is at Axial, that's axiall.uk.com. And if you go to the contact tab, you can send me an email from there. You can send me an email at jim@axiall.uk.com, and you can reach me on the phone at 07799 076980.
Business Connections Live is here to provide you with the information and the business resources that you need to make certain you have the right tools and knowledge to make your company a success. On Business Connections Live Programme 25, it's your chance to get a better understanding of your local Chamber of Commerce.
Today's Chambers of Commerce are absolutely responding to businesses and creating activities, events, different services, projects that are actually meeting today's needs.
And it's not just Surrey. On the programme, we talk to Ross Smith, Director of Policy at North East Chambers, Yolanda Rugg, CEO of Hertfordshire Chambers, Phil Smith, Managing Director of Business West, and Wendy Bell, General Manager of Sussex Enterprise. And of course, Louise Punter, CEO of Surrey Chambers of Commerce, and Board Director Tom Gibbons.
So come and join the Chambers of Commerce, particularly in Surrey, and we will represent you, we will promote you, and we will help you to grow your business through promoting what you do.
That's Business Connections Live, Programme 25, Business Success with the Chambers of Commerce.
And we're really looking forward to that as well. Next week, that's going to be a seat of your pants job. We really are looking forward. Lots of different Chamber of Commerce around the country joining us on the programme live. Now, what we're also going to be doing, just to, it's difficult enough to be doing that particular programme, but we may even open the telephone lines as well. Yeah, maybe if you've got a question that you want to ask, we'll be able to do that as well. They're all saying in my ear, on your Nelly, mate, they'll be saying. This week's guest is Lizanne Jakobs from Ology Coaching. We're talking about funding. We gave a bit of an overview about what Lizanne is all about, but it's specific on this particular programme, or at least the beginning of it. We're going to be looking at what's available for you if you've suffered from the recent UK floods. And that's really what this programme is all about. There's a lot of money out there sloshing around in different places that people don't know about, or maybe they got an inkling that it's there but they don't know how to go about getting hold of it. And a number of different organisations and government bodies have actually got money available. Also, they've got different ways that they can actually help you if you are a struggling business. There's nothing worse. I mean, we've had a month of bad weather. If your business has been, dare I say this, treading water for a month and hasn't been making any income whatsoever, and now all of a sudden you've now got the clean-up, and to get back into business effectively once again and to catch up on those lost selling weeks. Well, hopefully some of these different grants, these different funds that are available are going to be able to help you out. At least they'll give you a bit of a breather. They give you an opportunity to get your head above water and to come out fighting. Let's talk with the very first one, and we're going to give some phone numbers out as we go through the programme too. You mentioned just before we saw what was happening last week and what's happening next week, the business support scheme. Tell us a little bit more about that and what it actually covers and who it's really for.
Okay, so it is £10 million that's available in total. It is for small and medium-sized businesses that have been hit by the flood since December of 2013. It covers all sorts of things like clean-up costs, material and stock damage, anything exceptional that the insurance company won't cover. So things like hiring drying equipment, water pumping devices, temporary accommodation, loss of trade. They are expecting the average claim to be about £2,500. But like we said earlier, do contact your local council and try and claim the money through them.
Is it going to be one of these situations, will people find themselves where they're going to be battling between the local council, the government and their insurance companies about who's going to pay the money? Or is it very much a case that the government has said, right, I'll tell you what we'll do, let's sort the mess out and then we'll have a bit of a bun fight later on?
I think it's probably going to be somewhere in the middle. I think first of all, obviously, if you've paid for your insurance, go to the insurance company and try and claim as much as possible from them. Obviously, you know, within your policy and within the actual damages that you've had, but they might want to limit things that you can physically demonstrate, whereas loss of trade might be a lot harder to do. But the government has set aside all of this money and is giving it to councils to give to businesses. So do go to your council as well and get this business support scheme relief.
From your experience, have you heard of any funnies with it so far, in as much as people applying for it? For instance, when the legendary Chertsey sausage was put in, at that point, if it had flooded behind the sausage, this long tube that was effectively a dam of water, it was a man-made occurrence. Therefore, on some people's insurances, they weren't covered because it was man-made. And there was all sorts of confusion. There were a lot of residents, I know they're not businesses, but a lot of people were actually very worried about that. And the same must apply to businesses too. Is it a case of clarification with your insurance company?
I think obviously whenever you try to claim anything on your insurance, do read the fine print and do talk to them. And if you're thinking of getting out insurance for years to come, you know, be very careful what it is and isn't covered.
Yeah.
But it's too early to say. You know, all I hear is obviously that the government and the councils are planning on handing out this money as long as you can, you know, prove your case. So I would say definitely go for it.
Well, that's good news, isn't it? So that's the business support scheme. Where do you go if you want to get it?
Okay, so go to your local council and check their website first. For example, Spelthorne Council has straight away on the homepage has something about flood relief. I'm sure the other councils that are in flood hit areas will have something similar. If not, obviously you can always just call the general reception number, but I would try and go to the website first.
We've got the website there. Is this about that particular information that's there at the moment?
No, this is about the Government Business Support Helpline.
All right, so but the Government Business Support Helpline, now how can they help small businesses that have been affected by the floods?
So this is a general advice line, and you can get a 1-hour phone call with a dedicated business support advisor. So by all means, you know, give them a ring. They might be able to give you more advice as well as to what sort of help is available. The phone number, I think, will be available here on the screen for people to see.
It is on the screen, isn't it? There it is.
Yes,
It's
0300 456 3565.
So that's a good telephone number to write down. We will put these telephone numbers at the bottom of the actual programme so that you've got them all, so there's not an issue with that. If you do want a list of all these numbers, we will be putting them on the page. Now, we kind of skipped one there. There was one I was going to come on to, which was the repair and renewal grant, because I suppose there's 7 things we're going to go through. We've had the business support scheme. We've talked about the government business support helplines that are there, and that was a number. Repair and renewal grant.
Yes, so this is a specific grant of a maximum of £5,000, which is available to both homeowners as well as business owners. And it is really specifically to help them repair the buildings as well as make them more resilient to flooding. This will also be run by local councils and should start on the 1st of April. So for the moment, make sure that you take photographs of any damage that you have, keep track of receipts, expenses that you've made, and get quotes for building work, so that when you can handle these claims.
Will this one probably be retrospective as well? As long as you've got the evidence to prove that it's actually happened, there may well be a grant there that will help you in the long term get it repaired. I know it's always difficult, because what I'm throwing questions at you now where it's so new, all of this, isn't it?
Yes, well, the councils don't even know yet how it's going to be run. This is still being discussed between the government and the councils. They've just agreed that this money will be available, but the exact details aren't known yet. But it is for repair and it is for renewal. So you would think that you wouldn't have to sit there in a damaged property until the 1st of April. I would presume that you could claim retrospectively.
Yeah. Strange enough, the 1st of April, All Fool's Day as well, as it was just pointed out to me. So those three schemes there are places, or at least where you can find out what you need to find out from the Business Support Helpline, the Repair and Renewal Grant. Take photographs, keep receipts. If you're trying to get your business back online again, make certain you've got a full record, an audit trail effectively of everything that you spent, and be able to prove that yes, you did have the floods, you were damaged, and here's the consequences of that. And then before that, the business support scheme, which is going to be monies that's going to be available from your local council.
Yeah.
So there we go. That's a summary of the first three that we're looking at. Now, what's interesting, I think, is the next one, because I think many businesses get absolutely hit every year, of course, for their business rates. And here we are in a situation where during the floods, we're now looking at getting either a rebate or at least having relief from our rates. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yes. So any business that has been hit by the floods can get 100% business rate relief for 3 months. Once again, central government will be publishing guidelines to local authorities. So
I know it's very soon.
Yes.
Last week we were still flooded. Yes.
Yes. But obviously, if your business is in financial troubles because of the floods, speak to your council. If you're supposed to pay your business rates, just let them know that you'll be paying them either later or not at all for a certain period of time.
Now you've been talking to the likes of the local councils and that, and they've been very helpful when it comes to getting the information out to you. What kind of response have you had from them? Do you feel, having talked to them, that they're stepping up to the plate, they actually understand what is truly happening and what they've got to do? Do they understand the seriousness of it?
Absolutely, yes. I both work and I live in a flood hit area, and we got updates every day from the council to let us know what was being done and which phone numbers we could call and what precautions we should take. I don't know if that's the same across the whole country, but we were definitely lucky enough in the Spelthorne area that was the case. So and they do network a lot with the local business community as well, so they know what's going on.
I mean, the business rate relief could actually, for a business, be very valuable to them, couldn't it? It's going to give them that breather once again if their business has stopped for the last 2 months.
Absolutely, and there will be loads that have been hit. Even if they haven't been flooded themselves, they will still be affected. I normally actually go to a hairdresser in Chertsey, but I thought I'm not going to drive that far. Couldn't get to Chertsey. So they lost my business. And there'll be lots of instances like that, and lots of shops, of course, that have been flooded. We saw the images of Datchet, where they had the water sort of knee high or hip high. So that will be very welcome.
That kind of loss of business because of the floods is going to be very difficult to prove, though, isn't it? I mean, it's very much a hearsay thing, isn't it? We think we've lost the business, and so that, because of what's actually happened due to the situation, it's going to be very difficult. I suppose all they can do is actually look at the accounts of the previous year and then track it month by month actually through the disaster that took place.
I think for some businesses, yes, it will just be measuring turnover. You will need to demonstrate to the council that it's because of the floods, not because you are just poorly managing the business. But there might be others. So, for example, if you're running hairdressers, you might just have your appointment book and you can see how many people have cancelled their appointments.
Right.
So just try to track as best as you can how much business you lost.
And once again, I take it to actually get this relief, this rate relief, you've actually got to contact your local council and talk to them.
Yes.
And to make absolutely certain. Is this going to be exactly the same across all councils, do you know?
I think it will be. I mean, in these situations, government just issues guidelines of how the council should work.
All right then. All right, so we've now looked at business rate relief. Now this is the one that bowled me over when I saw this. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. Extra time to pay tax. We've all just had our year end, and you know, we've put our self-assessment forms in for the self-employed. And there's great big bills now that are outstanding, yet normally the revenue aren't, well, as long as you talk to them, I always find the revenue are very good. So what are the revenue doing to help small businesses?
So basically, you can get an extension of any taxes that you owe them for 3 months. That includes VAT, corporation tax, PAYE. So pick up the phone to them. The number, I'm not sure if it's up here on the screen, is 0800 904 7900. They're open 7 days a week, weekends as well, 8 to 4. And just talk to them. If you can't pay your taxes on time, they will listen. And
I suppose actually when it comes to HMRC, that is probably the most important thing to do with them, isn't it? Is to keep talking to them, let them know what you're doing, let them know what you're actually trying to arrange or to organise. And they actually tend to be understanding. It's when you go quiet on them that they don't like it, do they?
yes, that's absolutely the case.
Yeah, so if you're a small business, make absolutely certain that you keep talking to HMRC. If you found that your cash flow all of a sudden, because we're paying effectively a year ahead, aren't we? We're looking back and then we're paying forward and all those kind of things are going on. What you've got to do is keep talking to HMRC, make certain they know the circumstances that you're in, make certain they know your situation, because there's nothing worse than allowing it to go to their debt collection team, who then are a lot like Rottweilers, but very nice Rottweilers, and they'll come out and they will actually then put you in maybe in a situation to put you under more additional pressure that you don't actually need. So wise to keep talking to them. The telephone number, once again, there it is. It's on the screen for you right now. It's in small print, but if you go to the HMRC website, you'll find the contact telephone numbers there. And as Lizanne is saying, they are open 7 days a week. They're going to be there. They're waiting to actually help. They understand, as you can see the headline there, help for our customers affected by flooding. They understand the situation. They know it's going to be happening. When you think of a prosperous area, shall we say, like Staines upon Thames, also the Chertsey area, this whole area, the Berkshire area, the Middlesex area, Somerset as well, for instance. It was a bit slow coming. I don't think people expected it to continue or to be as serious as it was. I think, there's a history of flooding in some of the areas where there was flooding, but when it became urgent, maybe perhaps some of the government bodies didn't move as quick as perhaps they should have. But they're trying to catch up now, and they are trying to do a good job. I think that's fair to say, isn't it? That they are. It's a bit of a catch up for them, but they are trying to get the whole thing resolved.
Yes, I think they've realised how hard it hit a lot of people, and they are trying to do their best to overcome that. At least financially, there's lots of support. Obviously, the main question for a lot of people who have been affected is what's going to be done to avoid this happening again next time, and that's still a big question mark. But at least in the short term.
In the short term, Lisa, they are looking into it. Now, so that's HMRC. What about the banks? Because they get some really bad press. We've just had news over the last couple of days that more bonuses are on the way. But we've also heard of redundancies within the banking sector as well. So they're a bit in turmoil too. Can the banks be a viable place to go to if you are in a mess?
Absolutely. And you don't necessarily have to go to your own bank. You can go to a different bank than the one that you normally bank with. RBS and NatWest were one of the first ones to announce they've set aside £250 million in interest-free short-term loans. So they're interest-free for about 3 months. After that, you will probably go on their regular rates. So do be careful when you ask for these sort of things, that you pay back the money as quickly as possible. Lloyds and Barclays have also announced similar amounts. Private customers can also get a holiday on their mortgage payments. it will be much easier to arrange for overdrafts or extend your loan amounts that you have with these banks. Then also banks like HSBC, Santander and Nationwide have come up with similar schemes where they've either said there's a repayment holiday, or you can get fast-tracked for credit acceptance. So do talk to your own bank or to different banks and see where you can get the most support.
It's interesting that the banks have actually come out of the woodwork actually to help everybody out. Interesting as well that it's RBS and NatWest who have come out, first of all, our bank. And the other thing, of course, that they've got as well is BizCrowd. If you're not familiar with BizCrowd, check out one of our programs where we talk about BizCrowd. We had Aaron in from BizCrowd talking about how the bank can support small businesses. And this may be an ideal opportunity to go to that website, because it's a great way of marketing your business to like-minded people who may need your services. So do check out BizCrowd. It's dead easy to find on the web. Just BizCrowd and you're there. Terrific site, but once again supported, powered by RBS and NatWest. And of course they're now stepping up to the plate and actually making funds and grants available. Well, loans effectively, isn't it? Loans
Yes.
available for small businesses. Finally then, when it comes to the kind of support that we're looking for due to the UK floods, now this is the strangest one of them all actually, support from supermarket funds.
Yes.
What?
Yes, there have been all sorts of businesses and charities trying to raise some kind of funds for people who've been hit by the floods. Now, most of these have been put in place more for homeowners rather than businesses, but some do apply. So all the major supermarkets have promised money. So Asda, Marks Spencer, Morrisons, Sainsbury's, Tesco, Waitrose and John Lewis, they've all promised money. The main one that I noticed actually specifically mentions businesses as being eligible is the Asda Foundation.
Mm-hmm.
So they have pledged £400,000 for businesses that have been hit by the floods. Most of the other supermarket funds seem to be either, like I said, for private homeowners or for farmers or people specifically within sort of the food chain. And of course the farmers have been very badly hit
and
and they are businesses.
When it comes to doing all of this, is it quite onerous? Is it a pen pusher's or a paper pusher's paradise? Is it a difficult process to find most of this, or from your research, is it something that most of these things are going to be quite straightforward to follow through and anybody should be able to get a hold of it?
I think in general it should be quite easy. It didn't take me an awful lot of time to get this kind of information, and when you put in the keywords, so if you're either looking for the Asda flood support scheme, you just type in those kind of keywords in Google, you will find each one of those. How difficult it will be to actually claim the money, I'm not sure, but I wouldn't expect any problems. I work an awful lot with government grants. Pretty much all of my coaching business is largely government financed, and it's very easy to get that kind of funding.
All right then, so just to remind you, as I said, we will put the details on the bottom of the website just below this particular programme. So business support scheme, you've got that. I'll tell you what, let's do it in 2 lines. I'll say it out loud, you give me 2 lines on each of the topics. Yeah?
Okay.
Here we go. This'll test out the team in the gallery. So then, business support team.
Business support scheme, £10 million available for anything like clean-up costs, materials, stock damage. Claim it through your local councils.
Repair and renewal grant.
Up to £5,000 for homeowners and business owners will be available from the 1st of April through your local council.
Fantastic. Now, the government business support helpline.
A free 1-hour call, 0300 456 3565.
Business rate relief.
You can get 100% business rate relief for 3 months if you'll be credits, overdrafts. So do talk to your banks to see what's available.
And if the banks aren't going to help you, maybe the supermarkets will.
All the major supermarkets have pledged money. The one that stands out the most for businesses is the Asda Foundation with a £400,000 fund.
So there you go, that pretty well wraps up what you should be doing if it comes to the UK floods that we've just suffered. If you are down in Somerset, maybe up north, or you're in the Thames Valley and you have suffered from the floods. Do you get flooded yourself?
No.
Linda, co-director of the company and does the news. She'll be with us in just a moment. Back garden was like a boating pond. It had come up through the garden. Absolutely frightening. Next door neighbour, not so lucky, I'm afraid. So it did affect ordinary people. It affected ordinary businesses. And that's what was so frightening about all of this. If you did suffer from the UK floods this year and you want further information, you can always contact Lizanne. We will have all the contact details for Lizanne. It's actually on the website right now, in fact, if you go downside. Or you can actually just check out the website. Here it is. You can come to us here at businessconnectionslive.com. Have we got Lizanne's website address as well? We're really pushing out the boat right now. Here's Lizanne. It is I'll look over there, ecologycoaching.com/Lizanne Jakobs. So that's the web address. And also below it there, you've also got Lizanne Jakobs at ecologycoaching.com. She, like us, are big fans of short URLs. All right then. So it's easy to remember. All right then, let's catch up what's happening as far as the news is concerned over the last 7 days and with the latest update. Here's Linda Bazant.
This is Business Connections Live with the business news for Wednesday the 26th of February 2014. 2 million self-employed people will be exempted from useless paperwork under reforms to be debated by MPs this week and spearheaded by Cabinet Ministers Ken Clarke and Oliver Letwin. They will announce plans to slash red tape by scrapping health and safety assessments for all but those in a list of high-risk professions. The move is expected to save businesses hundreds of thousands of pounds a year. And rising levels of business investment helped to lift growth in the final 3 months of 2013, official figures have shown. The Office for National Statistics confirmed that the economy grew by 0.7% in the quarter, unchanged from its previous estimate. However, its estimate for growth in 2013 as a whole was cut to 1.8% from the initial reading of 1.9%. Business investment in the quarter was up 8.5% from a year earlier. Business surveys have suggested that the recent upturn in the UK economy has continued into 2014. A bug in Apple's iOS mobile operating system and OS X desktop software has left users vulnerable to cyber attacks, allowing hackers to access information that is meant to be encrypted. The firm has rushed a fix to address this. And businesses are being urged to take advantage of a Welsh supercomputer network that could help create jobs and boost economic growth. 6 universities in Wales are working with the private sector on the venture, which has additional funding from the Welsh and UK governments and the EU. They store and analyse information and make complex calculations at speeds much faster than standard computers. The Welsh network, which has sites in Bangor, Cardiff and Swansea, can run 320 trillion operations every second, which can help small and medium-sized businesses improve productivity and innovation. And if you have any comments or views on these or any other stories, please contact us on all social media or email studio@businessconnectionslive.com.
She was standing waist deep in water there. That's why we only show that far down. Linda Bazant there with the news over the past 7 days. And Linda will be back with us again next week on Business Connections Live when we do have some very special guests. In fact, I'll just get my notes out here because there we are. There we go. We've got the Chamber of Commerce. They're going to be with us next week. And we're doing a bit of a phone-in. So next week we're going to be joined in the studio by Louise Punter, Chamber of Commerce, and the Board of Directors, Tom Gibbons, is going to be with us, together with input via Google Hangouts, we can't wait for this, of Ross Smith, Director of Policy at North Eastern Chambers, Yolanda Rugg, CEO, Hertfordshire Chambers, Phil Smith, Managing Director of Business West, Wendy Bell, General Manager of Sussex Enterprise. We look forward to their company on the programme next week. Should be a great show as well. And also look out for Brad Burton. I don't know whether you come across the guy. He's one. Have you come across Brad Burton
Yes.
at all? What do you make of Brad Burton?
I think he's very energetic and very inspiring, and a lot of people like what he does.
He's very motivational. That's what I found about him. He's also the guy that heads up for that. Put you on the spot there, didn't I? He's also the head of For Networking as well. So if you're part of that particular networking group, you'll be familiar with Brad. Great book, by the way. Some great business advice. I mean, he was a bloke that was going nowhere for a long while, and one day he decided to turn his life around. And from the experiences that he had when it came to that turnaround in his life and in his business life as well, he's been able to create a multi-million-pound business. He's with us on the 2nd of April. That's Brad Burton. We're looking forward to that particular programme. Listen, we've talked about, Lizanne, we've talked about the different grants that are available out there when it comes to the UK floods. But let's talk a little bit more about what you were able to do, shall we say, for us, and what you can do as a business for the people that you go and see. We kind of touched it at the beginning of the programme. As I said, we applied for the Sustainable Routes grant application. It was the easiest application I think we've been through. They asked for, yes, a few figures. When I spoke to Linda about applying for this particular grant, Linda said there's going to be reams of paper. They're going to want to know the ins and outs of a duck so-and-so. Mm-hmm. And that wasn't the case. I mean, is that pretty much across the board these days now? If you are able to get the particular grant, or you've got the right credentials for it, do you think people get frightened off because of the kind of forms they're going to have to fill out?
I think they do. They are scared it's going to take up far too much time, and they're going to have to produce all sorts of reports to show that they're worthy, and it's usually a lot simpler than that.
What are the most common grants that you find when you're going out? Is every business completely different? Do they need to do an audit? Or what are the kind of things off the top of your head that they would actually, you should really be looking at this, this and this?
There's a few things. The first one, if you have a business with less than 250 staff, you can access the Growth Accelerator. That's a specific program that's being aimed at any kind of organisation. It could be a charity or a profit business that has the capacity to grow. And as long as you can show that you have some idea of where you want the business to go, that you are motivated, and that your sector has room to grow, and that's almost any sector, you can get very, very highly subsidised coaching and training, and it's a fantastic program, and it's worked really, really well. So far they've got 10,000 businesses on it, and the aim is to get, I think, about 26,000 businesses. So that's one I would definitely apply for.
But you must see businesses that fill in for these particular grants, or you're saying there it's a business that wants to grow, so they fill the grant in. And we all have aspirations, we all have dreams, we've all got an up-to-date business plan, haven't we? And we've read our business plan and we know where we're going to be next year. Is there any room for error? Can you get it wrong but still, I know you don't intend to, but are there repercussions, anything that comes back on you, if it doesn't quite work out the way you imagined it? For instance, last year there would have been people who would have been maybe thinking their business would be expanding, and then the floods come along, and all of a sudden that kind of knocks everything a kilter.
No, first of all, none of these grants or subsidies will be claimed back. The government does like to track to see if your business has grown, just for their own statistics, to see if these kind of support programs are actually helping businesses, and we can see that they are helping companies grow. But yes, if you decide, in a year from now that you're going to sell the business, or that it didn't work out or anything like that.
You're not beholden to them.
You're not at all. And also, if you make a mistake in the application procedure and you want to come back and say, actually, I put the wrong number in the form, can I do it again? They'll be absolutely understanding, and you can do that again. I recently had a business who applied for the Growth Accelerator, and it was just in a month where they were mad busy, and they just hadn't filled in their forms correctly, and that was not a problem. They could just come back and fill it in a couple of weeks later.
Do you think there's a preconception then of organisations and institutions, or whatever they are, where you apply for them, that these people are real sticklers? If you don't cross the T's and dot the I's, then you're not going to get it, it serves you right?
Yes, I think that is the worry that people have, but it's not the case at all in practice. So I am a Growth Accelerator accredited coach, and I work with this subsidy all the time. I shouldn't call it a subsidy, but it's a service of the government, and it works wonderfully well. Another thing I would also advise people to do is there is a government grant finder. If you just Google government grant finder, we had the link on in the previous program as well. You can simply fill in what sector you're in, how many staff you have, and what part of the country you're in, and it will show you all sorts of grants and support schemes and awards that you are eligible for. So I would definitely go for that too, and just see what you can apply for, what's out there.
Are most of these for established businesses? What about start-up businesses? You know, we've had a good idea, you want to start up, but you're looking for a little bit of, not funding, but you're looking for a little bit of help perhaps. Is there anything out there available for businesses like that?
I mean, startups are included in the Growth Accelerator as well, and they will be in the Grant Finder too. So, yes, it is both for really well-established businesses as well as startups. It's one-man bands. For most of these things, the cut-off is about 250 staff. That's where they stop giving you money. Mm-hmm. But there's all sorts of things out there. Manufacturing advisory service, for example, anyone who either makes or designs any product. It doesn't necessarily have to be made in the UK. If you spec it out but you have it made abroad, that still counts. You're still a manufacturer or a designer. You can get up to 3 grants a year per tax year with a value between £300 and £3,000, and that's match funded. And you can spend that on all sorts of things like patent searching or consultancy on you know, how to grow, particularly the manufacturing side of your business. You can use it for tooling. So there's all sorts of help available there.
And any others that we should be considering? I mean, you've actually gone through quite a range there, haven't you?
Yeah.
Is there anything else that we should remember when it comes to looking? Any other?
Well, you mentioned Sustainable Routes at the beginning.
Brilliant.
Sustainable Routes is a grant that's available to businesses in the southeast, not the London counties, I'm afraid, because it's aimed at getting people out of their cars and getting employers to make it easier for their staff to either work from home or to commute but not using their cars. So if you are somewhere other than the London counties in the southeast, then you can claim up to £1,000 based on match funding. So if you put in up to £1,000, you'll get the same amount of money back from the government for things like laptops so people can work from home, extra server space, bike racks, shower facilities so people can cycle in and have a nice refreshing shower. That's available. Off the top of my head, I think you have to have a minimum turnover of £70,000. But if you type in Sustainable Routes in Google, you will find that one as well.
I'll give you all the information. Once again, what we will do is we'll put the link to all these different sites on this programme as well. Incidentally, if you want to, there's the website, it's on the screen right now. If you want to, do go to that site and you'll find a complete programme where we looked all these different grants that are available to businesses, and you can go and watch the programme at your own leisure, and you can find out, and once again all the links are actually placed there as well for you to go off and to get the appropriate forms. It is very straightforward, it is very easy. Let's talk a little bit about the other aspect, because yes, it's all very well getting the grants and that, but what you're doing as well is you're going in there and you are advising businesses on how to run their businesses, and the biggest joke of course is sometimes the business plan. We all sit down at the very beginning and we put a business plan together. We see our cash flow, we decide when our VAT quarter should finish, and we see how that affects our cash flow. All those kind of things, and are all contained there in the business plan. You get the business up and running and instantly it's forgotten and it's put away. What are the right way of approaching a business plan, and what should you be doing with it? Is it a living, breathing document that you should nearly look at every day?
Absolutely. So what I do with most of my clients actually is we set out their goals for the business. So they're often 3-year goals, but they can be different timeline as well. And then an action plan for this year of what needs to happen to make those goals come true. And we put them up in a large format. It can be A3, it can be bigger, we can go A0. And get some blue tack out and stick it on the wall. So any time where you've got a spare 10 minutes, you're actually looking at it. And it reminds you of what is really important in the business, so you don't get sucked into the day-to-day things that might seem urgent but aren't necessarily as important to the future of the business.
And that is important, isn't it? It's to make certain that you are looking at it on a regular basis. And I think the thing about a lot of people feel about business plans, once it's written, it isn't written in stone. It's not written in blood anyway, but it isn't written in stone. You can change it. You can update it. It is, as we said, a living, breathing document, isn't it?
Yes, and I think when you do want to change it, you have to ask yourself a question. Am I changing it because something important has happened either in the market or in the business that means that we need to change things? or am I doing it just because it was a little bit too difficult to do all the things that I said I was going to do? And you know, if you can be honest and say, well, actually we found a new market, or we've added a new product that's working really well, by all means change it, update it. There's no point in working with a business plan from 5 years ago. But if it was difficult to do the things that you said you were going to do 6 months ago, actually look at it again and see if you can maybe divide it up into smaller chunks, or if you can delegate or outsource some of it if you don't have the time or the expertise to do it.
Okay.
Because people often do have good ideas when they start a business. They know what they ought to be doing.
And then they discover where the problem areas are. Maybe it's going to take a little longer or whatever. Lizanne, I'm going to be a bit cheeky. We've talked all about the UK floods and the different grants and the support that's available there from the government, from local councils and other government institutions and bodies. We've talked about the grants that are available if you're an ongoing business. We've talked a little bit about when it comes to business plans. What I'd like to do now is I'd like to have some free consultancy, please, if you don't mind. Thank you very much. Just the key things that we should remember when it comes to running our business, how they can contact you if they want to get in touch with you so that they can maybe bring you into their organisation or whatever. So really, the cameras are all yours, if you don't mind. Which one would you like the lovely Lizanne to be talking down? This one here, camera 3's got your name on it. That's the one with the crossbow on the top. So look straight down the camera. And so why should we be getting in contact with you, and what should we be doing?
Hi, my name is Lizanne Jakobs, and I help businesses and non-profit organisations overcome the barriers to growth. For smaller businesses, that tends to be looking at their goals, their business strategy as a whole, and maybe specific areas like their sales and marketing strategy or cash flow management. For larger organisations, it usually involves looking at the people side, leadership and management, communication skills, delegation, staff retention and recruitment. I do a lot of this with government support. I am a registered and accredited coach with Growth Accelerator, which is a government funded programme for any organisation with less than 250 staff. It helps them grow the organisation so they can employ more people and generate more turnover. And that's what happens with my clients. So through my coaching, my training, my consultancy, they grow, they get more turnover, more profit and a better cash position. The business owners, the managers and the staff have more job satisfaction, and they have a more sustainable business going forward. A recent survey from the Department of Business, Innovation and Skills has found that 67% of owners of small, medium-sized enterprises want to grow within the next 2 to 3 years. In practice, they found only 20% will. And what usually lacks is the support. So do go and get the support. Call me. My number is 01784 770 595 or 07900 437 680.
And what we'll do, we'll just pop up also Lizanne's email addresses and her website as well, so that you can contact. There it is, it's on the screen right now. There you go. So just get in touch with Lizanne Jakobs at ologycoaching.com. Also, don't forget, if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe as well to the channel. We'd love you to do that. Also, if you go to our website too, we'll give you 14 great techniques to improve the effectiveness of your YouTube movies and videos that you're putting up. If you're using YouTube, if you're using video content to promote your business, well, there's 14 great techniques for you to actually increase the number of people who will actually view it. Just simply go to www.businessconnectionslive.com. Lizanne, it's been an absolute treat having you on the programme. We'll say our goodbyes in just a moment. What we'll do before that, though, we'll remind you what's going to be on the programme next week.
Business Connections Live is here to provide you with the information and the business resources that you need to make certain you have the right tools and knowledge to make your company a success. On Business Connections Live Programme 25, it's your chance to get a better understanding of your local Chamber of Commerce.
Today's Chambers of Commerce are absolutely responding to businesses and creating activities, events, different services, projects that are actually meeting today's needs.
And it's not just Surrey. On the programme, we talk to Ross Smith, Director of Policy at North East Chambers, Yolanda Rugg, CEO of Hertfordshire Chambers, Phil Smith, Managing Director of Business West, and Wendy Bell, General Manager of Sussex Enterprise. And of course, Louise Punter, CEO of Surrey Chambers of Commerce, and Board Director Tom Gibbons.
So come and join the Chambers of Commerce, particularly in Surrey, and we will represent you, we will promote you, and we will help you to grow your business through promoting what you do.
That's Business Connections Live, Programme 25, Business Success with the Chambers of Commerce.
It's going to be an absolutely cracking programme. That's going to be happening next week right here on Business Connections Live every Wednesday night at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. in the evening. What's that make it? 7 p.m. Central European Time?
Yes.
I think it's, 12 o'clock? Central American, whatever. Listen, no matter where you are across the United Kingdom or Europe for that matter, we do have viewers who watch us in the States and also in Australia and Japan, strangely enough. It's lovely to have your company. It's what's happening in the world of business. We do it every week here live on Business Connections Live. I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll catch you next week. Don't forget, go to the website, do register, get your free download of your very special Business Connections Live 14 tips to improving the effectiveness of your YouTube videos. Make certain you go to businessconnectionslive.com and get all the details that you need when it comes to the different information that you need when it comes to Lizanne Jakobs. Her address is there. Contact Lizanne. She's really going to help you out when it comes to getting your business motivated and to get it moving. You can contact us all the way through the week. We're here all the time, actually. They don't let us out. Email address, once again, if you do want to contact us, is studio@businessconnectionslive.com. So it's as simple and as straightforward as that. From all the team here this evening, it's been a lot of fun. Lizanne, once again, thank you very much indeed for joining us. You're becoming an old hand at this now, aren't you?
I am. Thanks very much for having me again, and look forward to
We look
maybe
forward to
coming
next
in next
time.
time.
Okay, from Lizanne, myself and all the team here this evening at Business Connections Live, have a great week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Bye for now. Bye-bye.